Sure.
Yes. Mr. Smucker, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Beckman, I'd like to just follow up to that line of question that Ms. Block just answered. And I'll just echo some of the comments that were made earlier. I think the sharing economy is almost revolutionary in the opportunities it provides both for entrepreneurs, people who want to work part-time, as well as consumers. And so, I know we have to be careful that whatever we do in terms of regulation doesn't stymie the development of an industry that we don't really know where it's going yet at this point. It could go a lot of different directions. So again, as a follow-up to the conversation we had, some are interested in applying traditional labor laws such as the Fair Labor Standards Act, maybe the National Labor Relations Act, to these sharing economy companies. And I wonder if you could elaborate on the implications that this would have, both for workers. In particular, what effect would it have on lesser skilled workforce? For example, do you think they would have the same flexibility to work the hours they want? And could you also talk about how it would affect the companies? How would they be able to adapt to what I think would be a pretty vastly different regulatory structure than we have today?
Thank you. First off, I think it's important to note that the question of independent contractors is not a new one and not one that has just come up with the advent of the sharing economy. And a lot of these issues that are being discussed are broad and impact a wider group of companies and individuals beyond just sharing economy companies. And thus, probably that debate should be a broader one and not one just focusing on the sharing economy. But when you look at it, there are fundamental differences between arrangements when people are employees versus engaging with opportunities on various sharing economy platforms. For one, just the full flexibility, as you mentioned, being able to decide exactly your work schedule, exactly your work location, being able to engage on multiple and competing platforms simultaneously and back and forth, which doesn't exist in other employment models. I can't think of another example where you can just decide one day if you're not going to show up to your job or pick your hours exactly or work simultaneously for competing companies. That doesn't exist in the sharing economy, and it's important that whatever policy conversations that take place don't end up hurting the people that you're trying to help by adding new regulations or things that don't necessarily apply here.
I think Mr. Johnson's written testimony earlier pointed to numerous tax, employer, and business formation filings and registrations that entrepreneurs must complete to register a business on the state, local, and federal levels. And again, Mr. Beckerman, a question for you. As the Internet Association has reviewed these and other regulations across the country, can you point to specific states or localities that have been the friendliest to entrepreneurs and workers in the sharing economy? Is there anything that we can learn as legislators at the federal level from these states?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question, actually. We have a report that we can submit to the committee that lists various states showing who's been friendly to internet-type businesses and others, and you can have lessons learned from that. I think some of the things that we see on the negative side, often policies or regulations are put in place that don't benefit consumers or the economy or workers, but rather are put in place solely for the purpose of keeping out new entrants. And that exists too, and I think that's something that is important that the committee steer clear of as well.
Thank you. I yield back.